Guys, I have a confession to make. I like Bravely Default too. I don't think that's very much of a secret. I'm pretty vocal about my opinion on the game. And I know there's a lot of discourse within the community about this newest installment, with some loving it like I have, others hating it, and some people are just violently neutral towards it. And all of those opinions are fine and valid. However, and this is where we get into today's topic, sometimes an opinion is given that is just so drastically wrong about what it's talking about that I can't help but be completely exasperated when I read it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The worst BD2 take I've ever seen. Maybe I'm getting rage baited, but the algorithm seems to like these videos, so let's give one a try. But before we get into it, we've got a few things to go over really quickly. Firstly, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. This kind of video probably won't become a common thing, but I felt it'd be something worth tackling, so if you like my stuff in general, show your support. Thanks. Next up, and I know this should be common sense, but for the sake of absolute clarity, do not harass anyone I talk about in this video. Even if you find the backup of the post or know who the writer was, don't go bothering them. It's not worth it, and you're just making yourself look like a dickhead when you do. Third, there's a reason I opened the video with that talk about various opinions on BD2. And again, there's literally nothing wrong with disliking the game. Believe me, I can completely understand why someone might not enjoy it. That doesn't mean I disrespect them any less. But there's a massive difference between having a subjective opinion on a piece of media, and then there's treating your opinion like it's objective fact when you're not even right about half of the things you're saying. We'll be delving into the latter of those two today. Oh, and lastly, spoiler warning, of course. Alright, that's enough introductory stuff. Let's get on to the post. Now, OP has since deleted the post, but thankfully, someone supplied me with a backup of it, and the comments on the original page are all still viewable, so we'll be looking at both. First, let's take a look at the title of the original post. Now that the dust is settled, here's why Bravely Default 2 is a complete disgrace of a Bravely game. Now that statement holds some fucking conviction right there. You must be wondering, damn, if they're willing to start us off like that, then there must be some damning evidence in their review to back it up. God, wouldn't you wish? I love Bravely. BD and BS brought me into a rich and diverse world I could have lived in with a cast I grew fond of. They had an amazingly refreshed, but still noticeable JRPG battle system, amazing quality of life features that let you control your experience with the games, and a rich world with diverse areas and stories. So when I heard about BD2, I was elated. However, when playing the demo, I had fears about so many issues which couldn't and wouldn't be fixed by release. And when playing the game, I realized how bad this game is altogether, and that the new developers never planned on making this a proper Bravely game. Okay, perfectly fine opening. So OP has made it clear that they have played both of the previous mainline games, Bravely Default and Bravely Second. You may think this is irrelevant, but it's actually a surprise tool that will help us later. Keep that in mind as we move on to their first point. The battle system. The battle system was changed for no reason other than to change it. Yes, that's what changing means. It was amazing before, so why even think of changing it? Now the new battle system is so imbalanced, they have to balance you by making bosses counter literally everything you do. I think it was changed because the previous plan your turn setup was also unbalanced, because I could easily set my team to go on loop with Meteor Rain and just walk away while it took care of the super boss for me. Personally, I think both formats are fine. I totally see why some people prefer the old method, and there definitely are balance issues with the new system. Shut Up and Dance is an easy example that comes straight to mind. But maybe the devs just wanted to, try something new. Game devs are allowed to mix things up every now and then. We don't need a carbon copy battle system for every entry like Second was to default. Not saying there's anything necessarily wrong about that example, but I'm glad they changed things up for the new game. Freshens it up a bit. Because of that, you are forced to play entirely defensive for the majority of the game, winning by stalling and poison in the early half of it, and whittling down bosses while spamming heals towards the latter half before the endgame. If that doesn't scream complete game design mess, I don't know what does. Not only that, but the way it works now makes braving and defaulting suboptimal gameplay throughout the majority of the game, literally ruining what the entire identity of the series, down to its very name. Tell me you're bad at the game without telling me you're bad at the game. In all seriousness, this section just goes to show how OP really didn't seem to bother to try and adapt to the new format, if they're saying they just poisoned and turtled for every boss fight. I think they have it completely backwards. I'd say you have to take the initiative and strike hard and fast if you want to survive certain bosses. The Chapter 6 Nexus fight is not a battle meant to be dragged out forever. Once you hit Phase 3, you gotta get moving, because that thing will wipe you out very quickly. I also don't really understand what they mean by braving and defaulting as suboptimal now. In fact, one thing I want to bring up is that I'm so fucking happy they fixed the system so you don't spend 1 BP when you take a single action now. I'm still working on replaying through the first Bravely Default on live stream right now, and one of the most frustrating things in that game is when someone takes a single action, dies right after, and then has to wait a whole turn after being revived to act again, despite the fact that it didn't brave or use a BP costing ability to begin with. Anyways, moving on. The gutting of quality of life. Alongside the B&D system, massive quality of life is what defined the Bravely series. It is especially important because it allowed an old genre of games to exist in the modern day, which entirely led to its success. In BD and BS, you had job loadouts you could save, you could choose to lead as any of the party members, you could completely customize your encounter rate, you had friends and randoms you could summon and share your own progress with, and so on. You had complete control of your experience. All of that was gutted with BD2, with nothing in its place. Alright, finally, a point I share some sentiments with. Looking back, in all honesty, there are things I would change or add to in my reviews of Bravely Default 2. For the most part, I still agree with what I stated, so I feel comfortable leaving them up. But one of the things I completely forgot to talk about was the lack of quality of life features from the previous entries. Like, why were there no loadouts? Do you know how many of the loadout slots I've used in Bravely Second? The answer is all of them, and I continue to change them to this day. I can't stop. This is a cry for help. However, despite agreeing with this post somewhat, there are other aspects that are just bad arguing points. For one thing, Bravely Default didn't have loadouts, so don't say that it did. Another was choosing the party lead. Is this feature really necessary when we now have everyone on the map together? Yes, OP says? Right, I suppose, but you can't use adjustable encounter rates as an argument because the encounter systems are completely different. One is random encounters that is based on a chance rate, and the other is controlled encounters, completely dictated by the player, with enemies being attracted to, scared by, or neutral towards the party depending solely on their level in comparison. There's no randomness to BD2's encounters, so there's no need for that feature, so you can't use it as an arguing point for this massive gap in quality of life. And just to finish off, you're saying that the quality of life features are what led entirely to the success of the series? I'm a hit X to doubt on that one, Chief. I never personally played it, but I've heard about the original Bravely Default being a bit messy until it was re-released internationally, at which point it had been cleaned up quite a bit. So I don't know if I would attribute its success solely to the quality of life features. I think Revo probably had a bigger hand in popularizing the game than the ability to turn off encounters. The story. Oh no, now this is where I'm gonna get really upset. The plots of BD and BS were simple, yet the way it was told through dialogue, flavor text, world setting, environments, and world events was very well done. The game had twists and turns you wouldn't expect, and the next step was always an unknown and was exciting. BD2's story was more basic than a white 20-year-old woman ordering a grande vanilla frappuccino from Starbucks before her sociology exam she's 5 minutes late to because she stopped by a chic file right after waking up in her Ugg boots. Alright, settle down there, Ricky Redditor. You're not moist critical, so just stuff the unfunny, overly exaggerated rhetoric back under your fedora. By the way, no hate on Charlie. Love his content. Please collab? There's literally no depth, no unexpected turns, no convolution, and the story is all linear. Did we even play the same game? I don't know about you, but Castor being the villain of Chapter 1 certainly took me by fucking surprise. Let's keep going for now. and what failed attempt at a twist ended up being a cuck moment. You went through the game, defeated what was supposed to be the final boss, and then suddenly the final boss is actually good, and an evil lady is controlling them, and now an evil presence that has no actual tie to the lore is gonna gobble everyone up. It completely invalidates the first half of the game, and it feels like the writers scrapped the main story, then decided to still include it for some reason. Oh, just fuck right off with this one. You're telling me that this person played the previous 2 Bravely games and is only now having a problem with the military leader trope? My guy, Bravely Second, literally did the exact same trope the exact same way. Bravely Default had Templar Brave Lee being built up as the big bad, with Aerie on the other side and manipulating the party instead. But Bravely Second and Bravely Default 2 are literally point for point with each other. Evil military leader attacks the heroes at the start of the game, is being manipulated by an evil fairy who convinces them to do something that they think is going to help their master plan, and then at the climax of their plan, get backstabbed and betrayed by the fairy. Kaiser Oblivion and Adam Holograd follow the same plot beats, just for different purposes, and also the Kaiser is more fleshed out. But you cannot tell me that you legitimately thought Adam was going to be the true big bad evil after going through the first 2 games. Are you fucking kidding me? Am I being baited? Is that what is happening right now? We don't even have to stick to Bravely Default to see this trope. It's an extremely common aspect of JRPGs in general. I'll throw this one out there real quick for you since I've played it. Final Fantasy VI, Emperor Gestahl and Kefka. Not exactly the same circumstances as the Bravely examples, but we still have our military leader posing as the villain for most of the game, and then their right-hand man turns on them. Oh, and then we're also gonna pretend that the Knight's Nexus wasn't the central focus for the entire game, literally from the prologue, when Gloria tells the group about it in Halcyonia, giving the player the longest awareness of the true villain's existence than in either of the previous entries. Alright, cool. Again, another point I would fix in my own review, I do think the second half of the game, while still good, starts to lose gas. But holy fuck, did this person just skip through every cutscene of Gloria going on about the Knight's Nexus? Like, really? The environment spoke a one-dimensional tone, and the plot was predictable and repetitive, with each area having the same plot, just recolored, literally. The crystals chose you in the game, but with no explanation other than big guy gets earth crystal, sailor gets wind crystal, woman get water crystal, hot-headed woman get fire crystal. Wah, woman in my story, wah, the Bravely games are following tropes again, wah. Also, just a note, I didn't edit this post at all, despite all the grammar mistakes that are killing me. OP actually wrote woman in their review, so yeah. BD and BS had a story that brought you around the world to hidden places, backtracking to old places because something new happened there, or the characters noticed something they missed, some vital information or villain there, and so on. The side quests were intriguing and diverse and deep, and had great rewards in both item and lore. Many side quests were for asterisks, and you wouldn't have them without exploring the world and taking on those unique quests. The side quests also tied into the lore of the main story. Alright, I'm stepping in on this one, and I might be stepping on a lot of toes here, but as someone who is actively replaying through BD1, I can honestly say the repeat side quests fucking suck. The first time you fight each boss is fine, but screw the repeat fights. Chapter 6's Conjurer side quest was the only time so far that refighting enemies actually felt meaningful. And yes, I'm doing every single side quest. It is suffering eternal. Everything else has just been dog shit. So I'm shooting down the argument now that the side quests in the original BD were good. No, too long and way too fucking tedious. BD2's side quests were nothing more than fetch quests and go kill 2 wild boars. Complete nonsense, only there to pad out playtime. Not only that, but they completely abandoned the original story and stated they don't plan on continuing it, but they might make it into a mobile game if they feel like it. What a huge fat middle finger to loyal fans. So, there are 2 major things I need to address about this part. The first is a point I've debated on talking about on the channel that may or may not get me canceled within the Bravely community. And that is that I believe there is a group of people who are just constantly wearing not even rose-tinted anymore, just blood red glasses when they view the Luxembourg games. I still love those games, I really do. But I think there are some who hold them up on way too high of a pedestal and treat everything else to come out of the Bravely series like dirt. Just far too nostalgia-driven and close-minded about Default and Second. Of course, I still want Bravely Third and Fourth. They tweeted about it in the past that they may happen someday. But until then, I'm gonna give whatever they come up with an honest try. And you know what? Turns out I enjoyed BD2 more than the previous ones. But I'm still looking forward to Luxembourg's return, not just rejecting anything that isn't Luxembourg because it's not Luxembourg. And you have to understand that Second didn't get the greatest response, so it might be difficult and take some time for Division 11 to convince the bigwigs at Square to let them make another entry. So if it is a mobile game, I'll actually be impressed that the very concept of a third Luxembourg game got greenlit. Also, in all honesty, I don't think a true mobile Bravely game would be that bad, but I will save that discussion for another video. The other thing that sticks out to me from this segment is the fact that OP thinks that the only side quests in BD2 are fetch quests. This, combined with the statement about the Nexus being this evil presence with no tie to the lore, tells me that they couldn't be bothered to actually look for answers. This is a repeated thing I've seen from people who didn't enjoy BD2 in general, this one common thread, that they never bothered doing the side content and looking for the journals. Yes, there are a number of fetch quests in BD2, but to say that they are all just fetch quests discredits all the wonderful character side quests, where we get to catch up with past Asterisk holders and develop the main party and their relationships with one another. I still think of the first time I saw the quest for getting Glory to loosen up and cry laughing at Adele's drawing of Seth. And then there's the sweet couples quests with Seth Gloria and Elvis Adele. So when I see these kinds of comments, it just goes to show that they really haven't bothered experiencing the whole game. And if you're going to tell me that 100 side quests are too much, then just do the ones with the cutscenes. And as a last point, they're way more entertaining than literally doing the same cutscenes 3 times in a row like the original BD. We've spent enough time on this, let's just move on to their next point. The worlds of BD and BS were vast, diverse, alive, and unique. Each area had its unique identity and its own turmoil and struggles, and every NPC had a unique identity. Some towns even had wars going on, and one of them had you get caught right in the middle. The world was large and open, and you had a boat and an airship to explore it on. There were so many secret areas you wouldn't even know about if you didn't explore them yourself, and so many secret bosses, secret unique gear and hidden dungeons, secret lore, and so much to uncover. BD2's world is entirely linear, with absolutely no secrets whatsoever at all, and no reason to explore anything. This is a certified bruh moment. These points are completely ass backwards. Bravely Default, the first one, had one endgame dungeon with super loot and a secret boss. That's it. Bravely Second had like 4 post-game dungeons that were all reused assets from Bravely Default, and again, 1 super boss. If you want to count the yokai bosses, then fine, we'll bump it up to 8 total. But then to turn around and say that BD2 has no secrets whatsoever is just ignorant and absurd. You've got the 7 Halls of Tribulation for the toughest rematches under the sun. There's the secret boss in Rhymedoll, so there's 8 to match with Second, on top of numerous boss monsters to be found in the wild. And I already went over the secrets, what with the hidden journals that give us some more background lore on the World of Excellent. Once again, this just goes to prove my point that OP didn't actually bother to go looking for these secrets, which they clearly don't mind finding because they were aware of what was available in BD and BS. Also, overworld exploration, way more rich in BD2, fight me. Actually traversing the world versus massive character model just traveling is way better, actually makes the journey aspects stick harder, just like with Octopath Traveler. The areas can be entirely summed up as fire area, ice area, grass area, desert area. It's as linear and basic as a Mario game. There is no identity to the places other than fire area town, ice area town, grass area town, and desert area town. And it is entirely linear. I can't stress that enough. You didn't get an airship or boat in BD2 because there wasn't enough of a world to need one. We're seriously not going there, are we? Is this for real? Again, I ask the question, am I being baited here? Or is OP just denser than Adia's cooking? Here, you know what? I'll turn this one around and show you the opposite version of this take, because I'm going to lose my mind if I try to take this one on seriously. BD2's towns are far superior to those in its predecessors. A desert town drowning in water for a fun sense of irony, a wizardly place growing amongst the roots of a great tree which you can traverse, a hyper-religious mountain city with almost gothic-like architecture themed around dragons, the dense industrial age home of Holograd, and the beautiful, mystical hidden grove of fairy kind. The original BD just had your stereotypical desert town, water town filled with maidens, fire town existing just outside of a civil war, and cold, quiet ice town. The entire list of the world's characters were hollow caricatures of the original two. The main cast had no depth and no real reason to work together. They met each other, thought, oh, you're going this way? Well, I'm also walking in a slightly similar direction, and immediately became best of friends with no bonding or struggles whatsoever. While I admit the original BD had depth from their inner conflicts and have very powerful arcs to them, didn't the exact same thing happen in Bravely Second? Just Idia, Magnolia, and Tiz coming along with you to save Anya's? They didn't really have any conflict between them, so does that party suck too? I personally enjoy BD2's approach, where we don't need to have Istinian and Ysayle constantly at each other's throats. Sometimes it's just nice to have people who get along just team up without needless inner drama between group members. Besides, I was satisfied off Adele's remarks towards Elvis's actions. The cast had absolutely no depth and are entirely encapsulated by these tropes. Drunk loud Irish man, silent female anime protagonist, basic humble beginnings male hero, and angry hot-headed rebellious girl. In BD and BS, the characters had real personalities with real depth, and took a while to learn about each other, get used to their quirks, learn about each other's struggle, and learn to empathize with them, and accept each other. They also fought one another, ran away, or tried to abandon each other, and didn't fully get used to some of the annoying aspects of each other, like real friends in actual real life. They had internal and external struggles, and their personal struggles were deep and clearly present. Meanwhile, the BD2 cast struggles ranged from, oh yeah, I forgot but a friend died one time, to, oh yeah, suddenly I'm a fairy, and it wasn't hinted at all until I revealed it to you now. Also, I had an evil fairy sister who's a clone of Aerie, but with none of the surprise or plot building. Again, not every party needs to be formed through conflict. But the referring to Edna as an Aerie clone reminds me dreadfully of another bad post I saw before that said the exact same thing. I really don't get where this bad argument stems from of Edna being a bad Aerie. Duh, me have pattern recognition. That's a fairy, and that's a fairy. It's a ripoff. If they even want to remotely compare her, they ought to call her a bad Anna, but again, blood red glasses, nostalgia jerking, yada yada yada. Also, since when was Gloria silent female anime protagonist? Like, she is quite literally the opposite of that. That description fits Anya's more than anyone. Gloria is extremely outspoken and upfront, even making demands at Adam. She's absolutely not some timid little flower, so how can you just fuck up understanding a character this much? The postgame. BD and BS had rich postgames. No, they didn't really. As we went over in point 4, BD2 is far richer in its postgame content than Default or Second ever were, which is a shame honestly, but it's the truth. You had new hidden areas to explore, new and interesting quests to complete, legendary weapons to get, ball hunting, which tied into the main story, the nemesis to hunt down and gain abilities from, the Chompcraft minigame, and so on. BD2 only had B&D, which is very limited and shallow for a card game. Great potential, but poor execution. You get portals where you can fight the final bosses, which is nice, but once you get their weapons, there's no reason to go back to fight them. There's no exploration or surprise in it. The game even tells you about it right after beating it. Again, how many rare monster bosses are there in BD2? I can't even remember, there were so many. Not saying all of them are the hardest thing in the world, but they're there. And Jormungandr and Gwydion exist if you are looking for a challenge. It's shallow, just like the rest of BD2. No, more like the entirety of this post. In the end, BD2 lacks everything that made its predecessors great, barring a good OST. Oh, thank God they like the soundtrack. You know, I can take everything else, but if OP shit on the soundtrack, oh boy, then we would have had a problem here. A disgrace to the Bravely series, with the only identifiable factor being it had Bravely in its title. It destroyed the hopes of many existing fans, and was mediocre to underwhelming to many new players. I would normally call OP out on speaking on behalf of new players, considering they seem to be a series veteran, but based on the description of how they play, I'll just let it slide. And that's all due to it abandoning everything that made the Bravely series great. And the saddest thing is, because of this, we likely won't be getting another. Well, OP, I'm sorry to say, but the game sold just under 1 million copies before it even went to Steam, and I'm certain it surpassed that mark afterwards, so fair to say, we're probably getting more, so long as Brilliant Lights doesn't completely tank. Alright, that's the whole post. But we ain't done yet, because OP decided to argue with people in the comments section. And with the way they responded to commenters, we can kinda piece together what kind of person OP is. Maybe this part is unnecessary, but I'm only going over a few of the comment threads, and there's a few extra points here I want to address in regards to the post. Let's go to the top comment on the post. Cool, I played it and had a great time. Sorry your experience wasn't as good. Very straightforward response, and pretty much exactly what I would have said if they hadn't just been straight up wrong about multiple things. So how does OP decide to respond? Glad you had a good time. So did I. And just like with anything I enjoy, I believe it's important to critique its faults in order for it to grow and prosper. Sorry that it isn't a value you hold yourself. What? You answer a simple, polite response by insulting the commenter, suggesting they don't hold your values? Thankfully, someone else called OP out on this, telling OP that they didn't critique shit and just shit on BD2 while proclaiming the joys and perfection of BD and BS. Once again, OP digs themselves deeper with, clearly you didn't read the post. And no, I didn't come here for conversation. I came here to post my thoughts. The title should have made that clear to you. And judging by your name-calling of others who don't share your opinion, it's obvious you have mental health issues. Sucks to be you, buddy. Now, later on, there was a response from Tables. If you don't know Tables, I have very high respect for them. Tables is the kind of person you go to if you have a question about how the game works, what kinds of stats each class and boss has. They know it all, it seems. Don't go pestering them, but, I'm just the dude that makes the fun Bravely videos. Tables knows way more about the mechanics of Bravely than me. Now, the reason I never responded to this post directly is because A, I just decided to do so originally in private with a few members of my Discord for fun, and B, because basically everything Tables said was what I would say, and there was no point in dogpiling. Shit, that's what this entire video is. So why bring up Tables' response? Well, OP decided to cut out a certain section of the post which is maintained in Tables' original response, about classes, and it reads thusly. They gutted many classes such as the Black Mage and Red Mage, and deleted many unique classes like the Vampire and Exorcist, and many unique and fun abilities. Many of the classes weren't changed to be balanced with the changed combat system, and thus go ignored. Some classes are just bad in the first place, looking at you, Arcanist, Dragoon, Phantom, and Sovmaker. Some classes are literally just better versions of other classes, completely invalidating their existences. None of these issues existed in the original two games. I really want to do the Luke Skywalker meme right now, the one about everything being completely wrong, but copyright scares me. First of all, not every class carries over between games. You are well aware of this if you played the previous games. Secondly, yes, there are these issues in the previous games. And third, what the fuck? No on every accord. Saying that Arcanist, Dragoon, fucking Phantom, and Sovmaker are bad classes is just straight wrong. All of them are absolutely fantastic, especially the latter two, and even more so when they are combined, which just goes to show yet again how little OP actually cared about really getting into the game. Also, I found this bit about no classes replacing other ones between BD and BS and making their predecessors irrelevant. Hello, Bishop and Wizard! And even at the end of their response, Tables says they didn't think BD2 was nearly as good as BD or BS. And I'm fine with that. Again, as I stated at the start, I'm not gonna rail on Tables for disliking the game, because at least their fucking arguments are grounded in actual facts, not some incorrect assumptions about the game from not having played it through completely. This thread goes on for a while, so forgive me in case this looks like I'm trying to put things out of context, but I'm gonna skim through OP's responses now and pick out a few choice bits that really amplify their necessity to be right. On the topic of also being told by Tables that they don't sound like they're good at the game, that's an assumption you don't have the information to make. Regardless, you're wrong, as your point assumes defensive play equals slow play. And your entire point about killing bosses quickly isn't possible in early game, which I made clear I was speaking about. When Tables stated that Braving and Defaulted are still strong options after OP said that they were invalidated, still strong options doesn't mean they weren't invalidated. Yes, it does mean that they are valid. That's literally what that means, you lobotomite. Talking about BD2's optional content compared to the predecessors, visiting dungeons through side quests and MSQ is good game design. I don't understand why you're spinning it the other way. BD and BS had more main story dungeons alongside a plethora of optional dungeons and overworld bosses to explore. BS had no optional dungeons and very few overworld bosses that are not up to the player to discover. And you speak of BD and BS's progression being linear, yet BD is much more so. And finally, when rhetorically asked if OP paid any attention to the plot, that's a non-answer. You need to explain yourself if you want to use ad hominem. Alright, 2 more examples and then we'll wrap this up. So while I didn't respond directly to the post itself, since Tables had done a very good job of dismantling it themselves, I did respond to this comment from OP. It's Reddit. Opinions don't exist, and people get offended over anything that isn't their mirror clone. People in fandom Reddits are generally very pathetic, so try not to take massive downvoting personally. I gave you an upvote to balance it out. Firstly, cringe, announcing that you're pulling some Thanos snap bullshit to balance the updoots. But second, since my fingers were itching to at least say something, here's my response. I mean, the opinion is being given in the form of votes. Either agree or disagree, lol. Just as you're welcome to give your opinions of the game, people are allowed to give their opinions of your opinions. And talking down about a game/series within its own community space, where people generally congregate to find others who enjoy that game/series, will probably result in a negative response. It's just common sense. Just wanted to poke the bear a bit and reaffirm that basic concept that shit-talking a game in the community that congregates for that game will probably result in negative feedback because we're here to enjoy the thing. And what did OP respond with? Not how it works. Along with 2 links on how Reddit's voting system works. Just completely ignoring what I said and focusing on catching me out by linking how the program works because they have to be in the right when I'm talking about the literal concepts of approval and disapproval. Fucking hell. And now for the other comment from OP. And a lot of people get the impression that I think I'm a know-it-all or am stubborn. I am not. The reason I can stand as firmly behind my points as I do is because I make sure I never speak unless I know something for a fact. And sometimes I'm still wrong, which is just a fact of life. However, instead of people who conflating being wrong with being a bad person, I will admit when I'm wrong, when proven wrong, and learn from that experience. Well, no, you clearly can't admit when you're wrong, because if you could, you wouldn't have deleted the post in the first place. You could have edited the post at the end, saying that after reading so-and-so's response, I realized I was wrong here, and have since redacted this part of my statement. Of course, if you did that, then 90% of the post would have been trimmed, but I'm getting sidetracked. This person just shows that they are completely unable to accept being wrong and just have to get the last word in every single time. Hence why I went over all those examples previously. It's this kind of attitude I hate more than anything. It's why I at least try to be a lot more casual on this channel. It's why I present these videos in a more conversational format, because I never want to seem like I'm speaking down to someone or acting holier than thou. I'm just a dude who likes JRPGs and either makes videos on cool ways of playing them or giving my very thorough and thought out opinions on them. So you're probably wondering, why are you getting upset over this, Red? They're a Redditor, this kind of shit happens every day, it's nothing new, why make this video? This is why. This is the final part of the post I want to go over. This is a comment from another user altogether, and after reading this post, this is what they had to say. Oof, thanks for the warning. I was considering getting the game because I hoped it would tie in somehow with the original plot, but they're abandoning it? Wow, that's a fuck up. That is my problem with this post. Because OP is representing subjective and uninformed opinions on BD2 as objective fact, this person was deterred from trying the game out, which I think is an absolute sin. Yeah, they said it was because it wasn't tied to Luxendark's story, but they may have been more willing to give this new story a try prior to reading the post. Just because someone tells you, don't play that game, it's really bad, don't just take their word for it. If you had an interest in it, you yourself, give it a try and come to your own conclusions. And that's what pisses me off the most about it. Not that this person was dissuaded because someone else didn't like the game, but because OP's opinion is based on points that are just flat out wrong in most of the categories, clearly coming from someone who didn't care, didn't pay attention, didn't experiment with the system at hand, and didn't bother trying to explore. So if OP somehow comes across this video, I'm not looking for an apology or a public redaction. I'm not offended because someone disliked my favorite video game. I'm just pissed off at this sorry excuse for a post being treated as objective fact when it's wrong in a multitude of ways, and then is resulting in giving people wrong and false ideas about the game, convincing them not to play it. I don't care what you have to say after this point, and I'll just prefer it a whole lot more if you just shut the fuck up. Alright, I was not expecting this to go on for this long. But as I said, I like to be thorough, so that's all of my thoughts on what I would consider the worst Bravely Default 2 take of all time. Now I turn to you, dear viewer. What did you think of this post? Is there more on it that you agree with? Is your brain melting out of your ears like mine was? Let me know in the comments section below. This is probably going to be a one-time thing. Don't really want to just become a Reddit reaction channel. If OP or someone else makes some kind of response to this, I just don't think I will care enough to bother playing drama badminton with them. I said my piece. Next actual video will be a discussion on Adia Lee being the main character of the Luxendark storyline, so if that sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing so you won't miss it. Thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.